Hello, everyone, and welcome to our stream today on our favorite women fantasy authors in celebration of
Woo!
International Women's Day.
Woo woo!
Woo, woo, woo. And before we get started, just wanted to let everybody know that when we say women or female, this we identify that as anyone and all people who identify as such. So, um, I am Janae, and I am part of the Twitch team here at GeekGirlCon. My pronouns are she, her, and I am joined by the lovely Emerald. I'm actually not sure if you're on this
Am I
side,
on
but
this side? I don't know either.
I don't know. But Emerald, want to introduce yourself?
Everyone, okay, I'll go last. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Hello,
Okay.
I'm Emerald, pronouns she, her, and I'm a member of the social media team for GeekGirlCon. Hello.
Yay. Yay. Okay. But before we get started, Emerald, if you could experience reading any book again for the first time, which book would you pick? I had to
I
think very long and hard about this.
I like remember when we were talking about questions we didn't think about?
Yeah.
I like totally skipped this one.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, this is the one I actually thought about because I was like, I would like to like reread one like a childhood classic that I really loved. So, like and for me, that would be Ella Enchanted by Gail
Oh,
Carson
wow.
Levine,
Yeah.
light women
Okay.
fantasy, or something with a really big plot twist to see if, like, I figure it out this time. So and my example for that was Life of Pi, which I loved. If you haven't
Ooh.
read
Okay.
that, it's not by
Um,
a woman author as far as I know, but yeah, read that and there's a big plot twist, and it's like that would be fun to kind of re-experience because it's like now that I know the plot twist, I can read it again, but so
yeah.
those are my answers.
Yeah. I kinda, like, feel the same way about movies that have, like, a twist. I'm like, "Oh, should I, like, rewatch it to see if I can pick up on the clues?"
Mhm, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you totally you can, and that's another way
Yeah.
to enjoy it, but you'll never enjoy it the
Yeah.
same way
Yeah.
as you did the first time before you
No,
knew.
I know.
You
Okay.
know?
Actually, my response was also gonna be Ella Enchanted, which I think is a like a good
We
thing.
did it. Hey.
Yeah, yeah. But then, yeah, I was thinking it was
Are you
like,
over I think
like,
you're actually this way, but
oh,
I'll do it
I
right
don't know.
next time,
Okay,
maybe.
well, no, I really enjoy Ella Enchanted. I liked the movie too. I know a lot of people didn't love it, but
Mhm.
I found it to be enjoyable.
I
But
enjoyed
yeah,
it too.
Ella Enchanted, that was, like, one of my favorite books growing up, and it was just so magical, and then just, like, it
Yeah,
fits very well with this theme of fantasy written by a
definitely.
woman. Yeah, but then
Yeah.
I was also like, I think I would actually wanna reread The Fault in Our Stars again
Okay.
by John Green. No, it was just such a nice book, although very sad ending, but it was just a nice story too, and I was like, "Oh, it kinda, like, gives me a little bit of hope and stuff."
Yeah. Hope
Yeah.
is nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that ask we should ask chat, this
Yeah,
is chat.
chat.
What would you read
Yeah.
reread for the first time if you could?
If you could.
Eyebrow waggle.
Okay. Yeah. Ooh, I see some responses. Maybe, "Oh, I, Robot." Honestly, I had no idea that was a book. I
Ooh,
thought it was
Song
only
of
a
the
movie.
Lioness, yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Tamora Pierce, we got a lot of people saying Tamora Pierce as a favorite, woman fantasy author in our, like, Instagram poll and stuff, and I
Ooh.
agree.
Ooh. Ooh. We'll have to go through that list
Yeah,
too. Okay,
totally.
wait,
Oh,
I'm writing this all down too because I'm just gonna, like, add a bunch of books to my to be read list. Um,
oh, big
what else?
Asimov fans. Jane Eyre. Oh, hi, Julie. Hi. That's my friend Julie. I can tell by her name and also the fact that she's choosing Jane Eyre.
That's also a good one. Like,
Very good.
all why did you choose Ella Enchanted? Just because of, like, the world? T
I chose Ella
mm,
Enchanted, I think just because it was very, like, formative for me as a young woman, kinda and
mhm,
it really
mhm.
led into me getting into, like, kind of fantasy fairy tales as a genre and, like, loving it. Like, I have a big collection of, like, inspired by fairy tales or retold fairy
Yeah.
tales in
Yeah.
interesting way, and I think it's such a great example of how to you can retell, a fairy tale, be like, "Oh, but why did her feet fit in why were hers the only feet that fit into those shoes?" Which was, like, a constant nag in for me in any Cinderella story is like, "Please, there's gotta be at least more than one person with
Yeah.
that shoe size."
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes. I
so, like,
never understood that.
yeah, so that's kinda why is I think that kinda led into it answered some questions that I had and then led into, like, me, like, really enjoying that as a genre and kind of being able to play with that creativity, reinterpretations of things.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the same way. I really enjoy, like, retelling classic fairy tales, but with some sort of twist and, like, answering some plot
Mhm.
holes in the original work, and then just, like or fixing things that I didn't, like, quite agree with in the
Yeah, or
original work.
reimagining them in a
Yeah,
way that's less
yeah.
offensive. Like,
Yes,
always great.
exactly. Wait, have you heard of the series? Okay, I'm kind of blanking on what it's called now, but there's an entire series where it's classic fairy tales, but the princesses are androids.
Oh, like
I know there's
Cinder?
Yes, that's
Mhm.
it. That's
I don't
it.
know what the series is called, I just know the first one's called Cinder.
Yeah, and I know there's a Snow White one,
Mhm.
and I know I read it, but but I thought that was kind of fun too,
Yeah,
because
I
it's
think
a
that's really cool too.
yeah,
It's like her
feel like
whole
it's
foot.
yeah, yeah. But I think there's
Yeah.
also some comfort in, reading a retelling of a story because you still kind of know how it's gonna
Yeah.
end, right? But there's just, like, the way that they get there or the characters are, like,
Might
slightly
be
different,
slightly
but
different.
yeah, but you know how it's gonna end, like, there's gonna be some
Yeah.
sort of happy ending,
It's like a
which is
good
kind of
yeah, go ahead.
oh, no, I was like, it's just it's so comforting that you kind
Yeah,
of, like,
a
know.
retold fairy tale for me is a good combination of, like, you're like, "Oh, I wanna read something new, but I also want to read something that I already that I've read," that because that's comforting, and that's what we do psychologically, is, like, we rewatch, movies because we know what's gonna happen. It's like so then a retold fairy tale is the best of both worlds. It's the
Yeah,
best of both
of both
worlds.
worlds.
So, yeah.
Yeah, ugh, Hannah Montana. That was a throwback too.
Oh, so
Okay.
we have, Fractal Rainbow for the first time. She was saving Winter Night Trilogy to yell about later, but that series was huge for me. The very recent
Ooh,
Catherine
okay.
Arden. We had a lady night club in junior high inspired by Tamara Pierce. Oh my god, well, I need to hear
Oh,
more about that later. Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin. Loved it the first time, had to reread it for university. I wanna start a lady night club, but night like nighttime.
oh, yeah,
Yeah. An apocalypse is in.
yeah, I mean, that sounds great.
The t-shirts
Count
will be
me
very cool.
into. Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
So, do you primarily read fantasy books, like, by female authors or male authors? And, like, kind of what's your preference? And, like, what do you think are some big differences in writing style that you've, like, noticed between the 2?
I think I do kind of a balance. I think I would say I read more fantasy by women authors, but I don't like avoid fantasy by male authors. And I find that, a lot of fantasy written by men can be a little bit too cookie cutter kind of in a way and a little limited in its scope. And actually I'm like yeah, it's more like this is the way you write a story. Whereas I think and like of course portrayals of women are
Yeah.
more easily written, I feel, by women. So that that's always good for me. And
Yeah,
I appreciate that. But yeah, did that answer the question? It's been so long, I don't even remember.
yeah, that was a very long question, but yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I
sometimes I
like
feel like
both. Uh,
yeah.
appreciate both. I think I have more favorite fantasy authors who are women, but I do
Yeah.
have some that are men and are all very good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I try to do a balance, but I feel like I gravitate more towards the women authors just because I feel like they have a lot of the female characters are just written a little bit better. They're a
Mhm.
little stronger, um, maybe a little bit more realistic, and then
Yeah,
something.
realistic, I was, like, gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, and
Authentic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, I feel like I can like maybe relate to these characters. I can put myself in this character's position
Mhm.
a little bit
A little bit
more.
easier.
Yeah, yeah, and like I just feel like a lot of fantasy books that I've read by men are just tend to be like a little bit more violent, and I'm like,
Mhm.
that's kind of like not what I'm really looking for right now
Right,
in
like,
a
I don't
fantasy.
really want to read, like, a 10-page battle scene
Yeah,
that
yeah,
often
yeah,
as you think I want to.
yeah, yeah. Because, like, I want my fantasy books to be like my fantasy escape where
Yeah,
everything is beautiful and peaceful and magical and there's sparkles everywhere.
less blood and ichor
Yeah,
dripping,
yeah.
so
Um, okay. And then okay, so I know we have, like, a list of authors that we want to talk about, and that's, like, the entire point of this stream.
I'm so
Okay.
excited.
So, how did you discover some of your favorite authors?
Oh, man, I think a lot of, my favorite authors, libraries.
Yeah.
Libraries, your librarians being like, "You should read this." I can't say enough great things about librarians. Whoop.
Isn't
Like
there is there a National Librarians Day? Because I feel like there
there
should
is,
be.
yeah.
Oh, good.
I think it's
What
actually a
what
week, or maybe like a library week and Librarians Appreciation Day. Don't know.
Oh my gosh.
But yes, but I appreciate them
Okay.
every time. And then some of the ones that I'll talk about today were mostly more from I got from, like, my parents. Well, one.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so of the 3 authors that I'm gonna talk about today, one author I got really into because my parents were really into.
Mhm.
One I discovered on my own, in a library, like, on a fairy tale quest, probably. And
Whoa. That's a good way to put
one
it.
oh, yes,
A
thank you. I
quest.
was like I
Yeah.
had a sword and some
Yeah.
sparkles, and I was,
Yeah.
like, searching for the secret book, and I found it.
Treasure. Yeah.
So, treasure. Books are a treasure.
Okay.
And the 3rd one I actually learned about it was like a double learning about this person because I have this app called Calm, and they, like, read you bedtime stories, and one of the stories was by this author, and then I was getting a, graduate certificate in children's literature, and they also mentioned this author, and it was like, wham, bam, double learn about. So that
Ah,
was like a that's how I learned about mine. How did you learn about some of your favorite fantasy authors?
mine were also sort of like word of mouth. Um,
Oh.
it was just like for one of these authors, like a friend had read one of her books and she was like, you know what? Like, I think you would really enjoy it. Um,
Friend
and
recommendations are
yeah,
priceless.
and I just, yeah, and it's just like really nice when somebody thinks of you and, like, recommends a book and, like, knows you so well that they are
Mhm.
like, "You are gonna love this
You'll
book, and
like
I think it
this.
will bring joy to your life, and, like, you will really enjoy this experience." It's like that's, like, a
Yes.
very, very specific, like, love language,
Very
but it's
special
also
bonding moment to be able to
yeah,
share, like, reading recommendations and
yeah.
have them be appreciated.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's so great. So that was one, and then also randomly one of them was just, like, like, social media, like, on it was, like, on TikTok or something. Someone was like, "Oh, like, here's, this one book series," and I had seen so many people, like, were reading it, and I was like, "I
Mhm.
wonder what the hype is about." So,
What's
like,
that all
I
about? I guess
I
I'll look
wanna
into
be
it.
included too. I had, like, some serious FOMO.
Aw.
I was like, I'm gonna read it too." And I was like, "Oh, I like this was I liked the world building," and so I was like, "Okay, I'll, like,
Mhm.
check out this author," and then, um, kind of, yeah, like, get a little bit more into her books, and, um,
Nice.
the other one was I really like going into bookstores and just kind of
Oh,
perusing books,
yes.
and oh,
Browsing.
Yeah, okay, so I know you're not supposed to, like, judge a
Judge a
book
book
by
by
its
its
cover.
cover.
I know, but I was like, I found this
Jinx.
book and I was like, "Wow, I really like this cover."
Oh, yeah, I've definitely done that too.
It has stars on it, and I was like, "Okay, you got me."
Sparkles.
It's
Yeah,
sparkles.
I have this example here where I was just like, "This book is so pretty, like, what's going on with that hair?
Yeah,
I gotta get
yeah,
it."
yeah, and I was like, it grabbed my attention, and I was like
Mhm.
I read, like, the inside, description. I was like, "Okay," like, "I will
I'm
give this a
sold.
try." I was sold, and now I'm like, "Cool, I like this author a lot." And then sorry, I have 4 authors. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
no,
I
yeah, keep
couldn't
going. I'm, like,
narrow it down.
enraptured.
Yeah. And then the second one or the last one was, like, she's actually, like, a friend of a friend from college, and our mutual friend had, like, "Oh, my friend's, like, writing this book series." And I was like, I'll check it out." And then I ended up, like, really liking it, and I was like, "Okay, like,
Awesome.
I will follow your career, I will read the books
With
that you put
interest.
out." Yeah, I was like, "I really like this world that you've set up, and I like these characters." And so that's how I discovered
That's
mine. Okay.
awesome.
Yeah, okay, but I know enough teasing.
Oh, well, you have some
Should we, like,
chat.
actually
We
talk about
should,
yeah.
but I wanna catch up on some chat. Jerry Emma, that's my mom, I bet.
Oh,
Yeah, I think women tend to have better finding their male characters' voices. Male writers can tend to have a harder time getting their characters to talk and asterisks. Totally agree. Women are just tend to be way better at creating complex, rich characters of any gender.
agreed,
Mhm.
agreed.
National Librarian Day is April 16th, so write that in your
Ooh,
calendars.
yeah, right after tax day, file your
Oh,
taxes and
goody.
then celebrate the
That's
librarians.
my 2 favorite. I like one of those.
Yeah.
Good cover art is hard to resist. So
Mhm.
true. I've seen that, like, fantasy book cover creator, and it's just like, yeah, add a fun border, and then a font, and then a shadowy figure, and then, like, some sort of wild animal, and I'm like, "Yes, I'm sold on this
Yeah,
fake,
give
like,
it to
fantasy
me. Yeah,
cover creator
yeah.
meme." Does picking a book by its title count as judging it by its cover? Definitely done that before. Yes.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
also done that before. I'm intrigued by all these words put together in this that I've never seen together.
Yeah.
So tell me more.
Yes. And National Library Week is April 4th to 10th, and the theme is Welcome to Your Library. The Katieist says
Woohoo.
hi, better late than never. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie.
Okay. So yes, should we move into sharing
Yeah,
our specifically
yeah,
favorite
yeah,
female authors since we've done enough teasing?
yeah. Okay,
And feel free
I'll
chat
go
to
first,
share
then we
your
can alternate.
favorite fantasy authors in the chat,
Yes,
and we'll go over some other ones like generally that
yeah,
we were
yeah.
interested
We're
in.
writing these all down too, so
Mhm.
when this goes on YouTube, in the description, you have this list, so you can add them all to your to be read list.
Right,
Um,
to make them even longer, that's just what
yeah,
we need. So
yeah. You're never alone when you have books, so
aw.
just remember that. Okay.
Crying.
Yeah.
Okay, so you should go
Okay.
first because you have 4 books and I have
Okay.
3.
Okay. Well,
I'm just
that's
delegating that to
yeah,
you. Go
that's
ahead.
yeah.
No pressure.
Okay. Whew, whew, okay. So my first female author that I really enjoyed is her name is Victoria Aveyard. She's
Mhm.
relatively new. She is like the friend of the friend. That's how I discovered her. And she has 4 like novels out right now. And she has a few like novella size books.
Mhm.
The series that I really enjoyed by her is the Red Queen series, and,
Ooh.
so there's 3 books in there, and then I think a couple of smaller books in that series, but it's like there is this character, the main female character, she is, she has what they call, red blood, and she is more of like the plebeian, the lower class, because her blood is red, and there are these silver-blooded nobles almost in this world who have like these special powers. They can like manipulate like um like lightning, they can manipulate like feelings, and they have like these extra
Whoa, okay.
magical powers.
Magical powers, got it.
But then and, like, the country, there's, like, class war, I guess, and there's, like, other wars within this country, and but then this main character, Mare, discovers that she actually has these silver-blooded, like, abilities, and that, like, throws her into this, like, adventure and, like, conflict, and then there's, like, a love story, and there's a love triangle between, like, 2 princes and her, and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, who's she gonna pick?" And then and that's just like a trope
Classic.
that
I hate
I
it when I have
know.
to decide between
Oh,
2 princes.
I
Ugh.
know. Oh my gosh. And so I really enjoyed that series, and it's also kind of fun because, um, the world is, it's like a post-apocalyptic world, but it takes place in, like, the United States, but
Mhm.
everything is, like, named differently, so, like, you're also trying to figure out the mystery of, like, where are these places in real life?
Mm,
Like,
mhm. Like, where
is
did
she
that come
talking
from?
about the Appalachian Mountains? I don't know.
Ooh.
Like, let's, like, try to pick up on these clues to, like, figure it out and see if we can it's, like, not super important, but it's
Mhm.
like,
But
oh,
it's a fun little
like
added, like,
yeah,
mental
it is.
mystery, right?
Yeah. And it, like, kind of helps
Yeah.
you picture the whole world and see, like, where things are like, how things are gonna work out. I'm like, "Oh, like, you can't go to the lakes, like, that's gonna be dangerous," the
Where
Great
are
I was
the
like, "Oh,
lakes?
the
The
Great
Great
Lakes,
Lakes, baby.
maybe?" Yeah. So, that
Hashtag
was so
commoner
fun.
problems.
Yeah,
Probably,
seriously.
choosing between 2
I
princes,
know,
you know?
I know. But yeah, there's like the forbidden, like the bad boy character, right? And
Of
then there's like
course.
the Romeo and Juliet sort of
Ah,
element. And you're
star-crossed.
just yeah, and you're just like, I can't choose. But I
Both
think
of them.
but both of them. No, choose yourself. I'm so conflicted.
I know
But
that does sound really
yeah,
fun.
it's a very good series, very enjoyable. Also, I think it's being turned into a TV series on
Ooh.
Peacock. With Elizabeth Banks, maybe?
Oh, I
So,
like her. What was the name of the author again?
Victoria Aveyard. Aveyyard.
Aviard. The Red Queen
Yeah,
series is what we're talking
the
about
Red
here.
Queen series. Yes,
Nice.
yes, and she has another series that she's starting. The first book is out, and that is called Realm Breaker. I haven't read
I'm
that
judging
one
it by
yet.
its title. I've
Yeah.
bought it already. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, let's break that realm."
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I haven't, fully gotten into it yet because it's like another one of those or it's one of those books where you're kinda, like, dropped into the middle of
Mhm.
this world and all these characters. There's not, like, a whole lot of exposition, at least not at the beginning, so it's, like, a little bit
That
harder
could
to
be
get
hard to
into.
get in, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm, like, still curious, like, what is this realm that needs to be broken, and
Yeah.
why?
And who
Tell
is
me
the realm
more.
breaker? I already have so
Yeah.
many questions.
I
Like, that's a great,
know, I
title.
know. Yeah, so I'm intrigued. I have it on hold at the library. It's, like, very popular. So,
Oh,
I will
no.
get back to you in maybe about
12 plus
16 to
weeks.
20 weeks. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Ugh, good books.
What
They're
about
so
you?
hard.
Yeah, yeah, your
My turn.
who's your
Okay.
first yeah,
Okay.
your
Ah,
turn. Yeah,
my
give us
first
the author's
oh,
origin
I
story
know.
and,
Like,
like
I don't know
yeah,
which one to start with because I want to start with all of them and also talk about all of them for the whole time. So I'm gonna start with okay, so 2 of these authors are authors that I will, like, insta buy, insta try to read their stuff no matter what. I don't even need to read a description. They have a new book coming out, I'm reading it. And it's, like, 97% success rate. Like, each of them has a couple that I'm like, "Eh," but most of them so I'm gonna start out talking with my
that's
like it's yeah, it's pretty good,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm gonna
like,
start out talking with about Lois McMaster Bujold because she does
that
both
name,
I know, already sounds like a
such a
fantasy
strong
name. Already
yeah,
she does
like
both fantasy and sci-fi. So I'll talk about a couple of her
mhm.
fantasy books and then kind of overall why I think she's like an amazing author.
Okay, but we also
So
determined that, like, fantasy and sci-fi, like,
right.
overlap, right? Like, there was a
Yeah,
whole
so I'm
different
definitely
yeah.
gonna tease some of the sci-fi because she definitely has more, like, sci-fi works, so I'm like, "Oh," so nudge those into but they're definitely
Yeah.
sci-fi, like starships and, like, planets. But, so Lois McMaster-Bujold is an amazing author, and she has her fantasy series starts with this book here called The Curse of Chalion. And then
Okay.
there is
So
another book called Paladin of Souls. Don't look at this uncorrected proof, not for sale part.
yeah.
But yeah, I love this world. So what I love about Lois Master Bujold that kind of translates across both her fantasy and her sci-fi works is overall, she takes regular situations and, like, transposes them into a fantasy or sci-fi situation, and it's just like, chef's kiss. Like, well-developed worlds
Mm,
and real things that are happening, like, where do women pee in space? You know,
that's a good
like, spaceports are always under construction, you know what I mean? Like, she's taking situations like, kids don't wanna go to school, people struggle with like their weight, with identity, with gender identity, with grief, family dynamics, adversity, disability, recovery, abuse. It's all this alternate perspectives on like simple thing transposed into a way you can look at it from a different perspective. And it's amazing. And I took some notes. So let's see what are on my notes. Real situations into a fantasy setting. Check. Got that. Oh, and the other thing I love both about her, she has heroines and heroes. Her main sci-fi series is primarily based around one man. But basically, every book is saying the main overlaying the Bujold. I love the Vorkosigans. Yay! The Vorkosigans are great. That's her like main sci-fi series.
ooh, okay.
And what they're saying is you don't need magic. You don't need a sword to be a hero. There's many ways of being a hero, and even in one of her sci-fi books, it's like spoilers, well, I won't tell you what happens, but the
Yeah.
main heroine, like, cuts off a bad guy's head, and then, like, everybody is like, "Oh, yeah, you're a hero," and she's like, "Why am I the hero?" Like, this woman put up
Ooh.
with, like, abuse for her whole life. This
Mhm.
other woman went in hiding while pregnant and then had her baby, like, hidden in a bunker, like, these are heroes, like, all I did was, like, swung a sword, you know, so it's very kind of she's inclusive over, like, you can be a heroine at any age, at any stage of your life. So the Paladin of Souls book, oh, where did I put it? Is like she's like 40 and then she goes on she's like I want to go not I'm going to go on an adventure at 40, you know, and the Curse of Chalion, just her cross, like all her lady portrayals are like you can be a hero and a great good person and like in many ways you can do it in a political way, you can do it in a, you know, whatever, you can do it with your brains, you know, you can do it
Yes,
any type of way.
I love
So,
that.
yeah, it's
You know,
really
that
good
it's
at
not just, like, so, like, black and white, like, this is what a hero is. Like, no,
yeah,
no, it's it's not just, like, checking these boxes or it
no.
doesn't have to necessarily fit this box,
Yeah,
you
you don't
know?
have to fit
Oh,
in any box. It's just so they're all so
yeah.
accepting about differences and, you know, sexuality and just like, you know, what works for you and then my side note into the sci-fi section is yeah, very good like speculative sci-fi social commentary in space. Like so this book here, Cordelia's Honor, or the first book is called Shards of Honor, is very about like what happens when an advanced planet culture or you know interacts who's very into equality but like also government control interacts with like a planet that's very like male dominated and like tough guy only and so it's very like culture clash but there's also some good like alien botany and the main series is
Oh,
very like how do you overcome like being disabled in a society where that's like people were killed at birth for that.
Oh,
She also has a great sci-fi book where it's like this is a planet where it's all men and everybody's gay and that's the standard. And then how does somebody from that planet going out into this other where people are like, "Oh my gosh, what?" How does that interact? And how do you take a new perspective on like telepathy or mind reading when it's like most
yeah.
people are like, "Oh, well, you should be a spy or war." And then he's like, "Oh, but what about like this would be a great tool for social work for like helping people with memory loss or like babies. What are babies
Interesting.
thinking?" I don't know.
And it takes, like, a lot of talent to, like, take, like, normal situations and, like,
Mhm.
with that twist and, like,
Yeah.
in that new situation, in that new setting to be able to, like, make give a commentary on it and, like, put it in a new
And
perspective.
still feel
And
real and not feel like, "Oh,
yeah.
this is like a gimmick," like
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and not feel
Do
preachy
I
about it. Oh,
yes. Do I invite my son's clone to Christmas dinner? That is, like, something that actually happens. It's like,
oh, yeah,
it's like, kids don't go to school. What happens? Kids don't wanna go to school. What happens if they don't wanna go to school, on their space station? Like, well,
yeah.
so back into the fantasy, I have these other 3 by her. The Spirit Ring by Lois McMaster Bujold is the first book I think she wrote, which is also very good. It's like you can tell it was her first book though. Like it's got a different style, but it's very
Mhm.
good if you're into like kind of more cookie cutter, get into it, and you want to read some about like Italian historical, but with magic jewelry making.
Oh.
So that's
Oh,
that.
okay.
And then she has a full, like, novella series set in the same world as The Curse of Chalion and Paladin of Souls. And this is the first one, Penric's Demon. They're all very short, but they're basically about, like, oh, well, what if you were a man and then you were inhabited by a female demon, basically? So, like, that's about him coming to terms with having, he has, like, a centuries old female presence living inside his mind to give him magic. So that's kind of fun too.
Do you have a recommendation for which book, folks should start with if they wanna, like,
I
get into
do.
the world? Yeah,
If
okay,
you want to get into the world, start with The Curse of Chalion. That's like the
okay.
first book. That's where I would go to start. If you want to get into the sci-fi world, which is many more books, there are many places that you can get in, and I would recommend either if you want a female protagonist, I would start with Shards of Honor. That is about a woman who culture clashes with like the super military tough guy planet, and she's like, "I'm a female captain scientist. Like, why are you being so sexist?" And they fall in love. And
Oh
if
my
you want
god.
to get, if you prefer a male
Enemies to lovers?
protagonist,
Oh my god.
I know. If you prefer a male protagonist, the I would start with The Warrior's Apprentice. That is
Oh,
about starts with Miles Vorkosigan, and he's like over 10 books long, and he's like kind of disabled in their community basically, but he's like super smart, and but that's more heavily sci-fi, like some military, some political intrigue kind of stuff, but it's a great series and I highly recommend it. So
okay.
yeah.
I'm writing these all down again, so
Curse of
yeah.
Chalion, start
Yes,
there, or
yes,
Shards of
okay,
Honor, and then we can talk about it.
okay, okay.
Okay.
Alright, okay. My second author is Erin Morgenstern.
Night
I've
Circuit. This is the one that I've actually read stuff by.
yes, oh my gosh, this was the book that was recommended to me by a friend because she was like, "You will love this book." Like, and she had recommended it to me for, like, years. I'm like, "Oh,
Which
I
book
don't
was
know."
it? Was it Night
It
Circus,
was
Starless
it
Sea?
was
What
the
was it?
it was the Night Circus.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, I don't know, I like at that time, I kind of, like, go through, like, phases of
Mhm.
genres that I read, and I was like, "No, like, I'm, like, not really into fantasy right now. I'm on, like, my post-apocalyptic dystopian society young adult novel kick right now, so it's like, it doesn't
Sure.
really
Yeah.
fit, like, the books that I'm reading at the
But I mean, like,
moment.
raise your hand though if you do that. You go through phases of
Oh,
like
yeah.
yeah.
And, so I finally read it, and I was like, "Oh my goodness." I was like, it's so magical. It was so intriguing, just like the whole thing about like this night circus plus like this competition plus like this underlying love story. And I was like,
Magic and,
this
like, the
and
way that she
magic.
writes with, like, the different
Yeah.
times, and you're like,
Yeah. And I was like, what's happening? Like, how is this story like tied to this one? I don't
"Mhm,
know. I'm so intrigued. Tell me more. And I was like, wow, like I really enjoy this book. And now I recommend it to a bunch of people.
nice."
Because it was so enjoyable and it was yeah, it was just like a nice story. It had so many elements that I really enjoyed. It had like, yeah, the magic, the love story, like the mystery, and I was like, I'm in, I'm into this. And then I read The Starless Sea, and that one I enjoyed, but I was also so
Oh
confused.
my gosh, I know. So, Erin Morgenstern has a very distinctive writing style, am I
Yeah.
right? It's, like,
Yes.
very much
Yes.
like, "What is going on?
Yes. And I was like,
When
did
is
someone
this?"
yeah, I was like, when is is this related? I was like,
Yeah,
I'm sure she's gonna explain it. And
it's
I was like, I
disjointed, but I love it.
yeah. I was like, I'm seeing the pieces come together, but I'm not quite sure. But then that's what kept me reading
Mhm,
too,
yes,
because
because
I
you
was
need to
just like
figure it
so
out.
intrigued. But like, yes, like what is the starless sea? How do we get there? How are all of these stories connected? And it was such a novel. Um,
Ah, get out.
yeah.
No, please
I
stay.
do yeah. Um, it was such a, like, a different and new, like, concept of a story that I had, like, never experienced before, and
Mhm.
I was like, "This takes so much creativity in order to, like, figure out all of these stories, figure out how they're all connected, figure out how you wanna tell the story, and how do you build a world that's so kind of, like, abstract, but still realistic and like something that I can so clearly like see in my mind's eye.
Yes,
So
very
like,
descriptive.
yeah, yeah. So that one was good. But I highly recommend The Night Circus. If there's any one of her books that you read, start with The
Yeah,
Night
if you were
Circus.
just gonna read one, I would say read The Night Circus, because then it could help you get into the Starless Sea, because
Yeah.
Starless Sea has that same kind of, like, you're kind of confused about when things are happening, and so if you're like you dip your toe in first with The Night Circus, which is a little more accessible, I feel like.
Yes. Yes.
Also, if
For
you
sure.
listen to it on audiobook, it's narrated by Jim Dale,
Oh my
so
goodness.
and then you
I
can
did
just, like, keep checking it out and then listen to it while you fall asleep, and it's great.
oh my gosh. Okay. I might have to like reread it, but
Exactly.
an audiobook
'Cause
now.
it
Okay.
won't matter if you fall asleep, you already know the story.
Yeah, he's got such a great voice.
It's very
Like, we were talking
soothing
about
to
this
me.
earlier, it's like, there's certain narrator or there's certain books that it's, like, highly dependent on the narrator if I get
Mhm,
into
mhm,
the
mhm.
audiobook or not. Jim
Totally.
Dale, very good,
Yes.
very good. I love all of the voices that he does.
Yeah. Oh, me too. So, yeah, chat, let us know. Audiobooks, yay or nay? What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. Who's your favorite
Yeah.
or what has been your favorite book to listen to on audiobook?
Lots of people are
Yeah.
loving on Night Circus.
Oh, yay!
Princess Julie 253 plus the descriptions of the circus are just magical.
Yes.
Sigh. I
Yeah.
recommended the book to her, so
Oh,
nailed it.
win. Yeah.
And,
It's
like,
like,
the star
I
about the Starless Sea too, I was like, this is another, like, not judging a book by its cover, but judging a book by its description. I was like, they had me at secret magical library. Like, that's my
yeah.
jam. So,
Yes, that is my fantasy escape.
mm,
Secret magical library.
mhm.
Cozy.
Yeah,
Cat. Yeah.
right? Yeah, there's a cat there, yeah, love it, love it.
Yeah.
People love
Okay.
audiobooks.
They are so magical.
They are indeed.
Yeah.
Truth.
Yes. Okay. Do you wanna talk about your next
Okay,
favorite
my next one, this is the big one. So if you thought I talked a lot about Lois McMaster Bujold,
author?
you fool! Now is my time. So this is the person who I discovered on my own, I think. I don't know. Uh, oh yeah, Harry Potter on audiobook is good.
Also Jim
Either
Dale,
way.
right?
Jim Dale or Stephen Fry, I will listen to either
Oh,
one.
ooh, I didn't know Stephen Fry
Yeah,
did,
he does the
uh,
British version, and I'm like, "Of
uh,
course."
yeah.
Anyway,
Okay, sorry, go
so
on.
this author's name is Juliette Marillier? Marillier? I don't know. Here, I'll type it in. Juliette Mar Marillier. Marillier? I don't know. Anyway,
Marie, I'm sorry.
my all-time favorite fantasy book is probably this book right here, Daughter of the
Go
Forest.
for
And this is the copy that I grew up with, and then I loved it so much. This is part of a trilogy that then later became a further trilogy, and it's great. So here are the things if you love retold fairy tales, if you love like historical Ireland vibes, but with magic, if you love the other world, Tir na Nog, like classic Irish culture type things, Druidism. These are the books for you. The main series is called the Seven Waters series.
Oh,
And it starts with this one, Daughter of the Forest, that I love so much. This is the one I got multiple copies of different covers because I was like, I look
ooh,
how pretty this one
the
is, right?
slime,
Is loosely based on the
so pretty.
Children of Lear, which is a Irish folk tale where kids get turned into swans, I think.
Ooh, ooh,
One also, Daughter of the
oh my
Forest. Yeah. So keywords, yeah, besides, druidism, fairies, lady of the forest, true love, sacrifice, culture clash, great, great stuff. Historical, like this is what it would have been like to live in this time in Ireland and like nature. And it's like, so good.
oh,
Like this is the kind of book that I reread every year. Every year. Okay.
yeah,
Oh, I have your attention. Oh, good.
yeah.
And the the great thing about Juliette Marillier, besides like magical, fantastical, otherworld, mythical, druid fantasy, is that she has a range you can choose from based on your mm, like reading level. So like the Seven Water series is like it's like adult fantasy. It's like there's some like content warning stuff. It's just like regular, like fantasy for a grown up. But then if you are more like, no, I want more, I want deeper, I want like healing trauma, I want historical Vikings, then she has options.
Oh,
So this is another series. Um, Same vibe. It's like she's an herbalist who got wrongly imprisoned and has to recover from all this trauma of like, so this is like deep like PTSD trauma, like resolving issues and like healing yourself. But magic also, like figuring things out because you're basically a witch. And then this is like even deeper wolf skin is very much like Vikings come to the Orkney Isles and discover the people who live there. And it's very like sacrificing a goat to Thor and like he's like a mighty Norse warrior, and they go on a, ship over to like the islands and meet these like people, and it's like drama, mystery, like they're kind of more natural, nature-based faith and like how those interact together. And of course, they fall in love. She's like a priestess of the folk, and he's like the toughest guy on the Viking ship. So very good. So if you want more like kind of in-depth, like you're into real like ooh, what are the details though of like how a sacrifice to Odin would work or like how a ship is built? But if you're on the other side, she has some YA options for you that are
Oh,
lighter,
mhm.
more accessible. You want this retelling of Beauty and the Beast where she's like a scribe and like they live on a haunted Kua. Yeah, there you go. She's gonna go work in this guy's library. What's up with him? We don't know. There's creepy mirrors around. Heart's blood is the name of a plant that she can use to make some ink. All of Juliet's, I'm just gonna call her on a first name basis now.
Oh, 'cause you're
All
'cause
of
you're so
Juliet's
close.
book have in common is that similar to Lois McMaster Bujold, they all are dealing with very serious issues in a fantastical setting that you can then learn from. So like she like runs away from home because like her dad dies and her stepmom is basically taking advantage of her and is like abusive. Okay?
Mm,
So that's like
mhm, mhm.
definitely with Juliet look into like what do you think's going to happen? Like there's very serious things that happen. But in a fantasy world where it's like it's not glossed over, it's acknowledged, it's given respect. It's like here's a way you can learn and grow. And then YA, super YA, Wildwood Dancing. This is a retelling of the Dancing Princesses. I know some people love that, but it takes place in Transylvania. So this is a
Ooh.
very another fun way. It has the magic. It has the I love this like cover. Like there's like fairies all over it.
Mhm.
Very
Oh,
it has the
looks
kind of light
fantastical.
historical kind of like you're in the fantasy world about like, oh, always so drafty in this castle. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like how do you heat that up? And it's actually kind of a combo of Dancing Princesses and the Frog Prince. So it's like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
she's got like a pet frog and that like, talks to her and stuff. And she's like, "Oh, he must have just escaped through the portal that we go dance at all the time." But it's actually like a
It's like
person
a
and
person,
they're
yeah.
in love. So yeah, so Juliet Marillier has options for you if you want something on the lighter side, on the easier to read side, but that are still like fairy tale inspired. She has things that are like, no, I want to deep dive into history, or I want to deal with like I want to read about like, some kind of deeper topics. But if you were going to just read one thing, I would start with Daughter of the Forest because that
Daughter.
trilogy called the Seven Waters trilogy is hundo. I say that is that
I
slang? Am I using that right?
know.
I don't know. It's great. And they have in fact a second she wrote a second trilogy, Seven Waters trilogy that is lighter also. It's like about like the like great granddaughters, like three of the great granddaughters.
Oh, oh,
Which is both kind of lighter, less, like, in depth into, like, "Oh, I have to, like, not talk and, like, sew things with thorny hands to rescue my brothers from this witch," but they're more into, like they're less serious but more magical, so they go more into, like, sea creatures, casting Ogham
oh, oh.
signs, druidism. They actually go to the other world and, like, she falls in love with a half fae boy. So, yeah, my all-time favorite series, the Seven Waters series, and if you don't read it,
Oh,
I will be mad at you and hate you forever, so
oh. I've
no
written it down.
pressure.
It's
Oh,
gonna
good.
it's
Oh, good. Phew.
yeah.
Yeah.
I will get back to you again in maybe 24 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 hundos up, says
Yeah,
Ebert and Volumnia.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. My 3rd, favorite, like, woman fantasy author is Sarah J. Maas. I think she's very popular on TikTok at the
Hey,
moment. Yes.
somebody commented that on Instagram. That was one of the commented ones.
Yeah,
That was
it's,
their favorite fantasy.
yeah, the series that I really enjoyed by her is The Court, or no, sorry, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I'm trying to remember if there's 3 or
Sounds
4
very
books.
familiar to me.
I just read them, like they were, like, really popular, um, on social media, like, or, like, a couple of years ago, or maybe a year ago, um, and it was so different than the, like, fantasy novels that I had read before in
Mhm.
that, it was well, okay, so the first book was more like, um, kind of like a retelling, or it had, like, elements of Beauty and the Beast, and I was like, "This feels familiar.
Mm.
I like this." Um, but then, like, the stakes were kind of higher, there were more, like, fantasy creatures, there was, like, war, and I was like, "Wow, like, this normally isn't, like, something that I would read." Um,
Mhm.
just like, I I don't know, it was just, like, unusual for me to read something like that, but I was like, "I'm really getting into this world," and
Mhm.
then, like, I was just so intrigued by the story between, like, the main 2 characters,
Mm.
that I kept reading, and then, like, the story goes on and kind of then deals with a lot heavier issues about, like, what does it mean to be human?
Ugh.
How do you deal with trauma, um, and, like, PTSD in, like, this magical world, um, and it was it was written just in a way that I was able to kinda, like, understand it from, like, a different perspective. It's, like, a very, realistic, very human, situations, but
Yeah.
with that other perspective, and the world was just, like, super interesting too, and I didn't mention this in the Fantasy Escapes, um, stream, but then, like, another one of fantasy escape that I just really liked was this, the City of Starlight that she has created, and I was like, "It just seems, like, really
Ooh.
beautiful," and, like,
You had me at
the
Starlight,
I know
so
it's, like, yeah, it's, like, beautiful at night because of all the stars, but then it's, like, so colorful and vibrant, and it's, like, so different and, like, such a um, the city itself is, like, an escape from like, conflict and the war-torn, setting of the series, and, like,
Mm.
the there's so much mystery, and, like, there's I think I just really like books with love triangles,
Oh,
but there's, like,
yeah, I mean,
other
who
ones,
doesn't?
and I was like, "Who's she gonna pick?" Like, I know this is, like, small beans compared to, like, the larger story, but I was like, "I really
I
need to
don't care about the
know."
war, I care
Yeah.
about the personal
I was like, "Who's she gonna
stories.
end up with?" And, like, but it's more like there's, like, the romantic relationships that are explored, and then also, the relationships that are familial relationships that the main character has, like,
Mhm.
with her sisters and, like, dealing with loss and all this stuff, and I was like, "This is very, like, human stuff, but in
Yeah.
this magical world." So it's like, I really enjoyed it. So it's A Court of Thorns and Roses, or Roses and Thorns. I always get it confused. But there's, like, a few novellas in that, world, and then she has, another trilogy that I haven't read yet because, again, there's just
PBR,
so
yeah, there's too
yeah,
many on that
there's
list. Let's
too
add
many.
some
Yeah.
more. What?
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that so that's Sarah J. Maas.
Okay,
Okay.
nice.
Who Tell us about the
Oh, my
last
last one, this
Yeah.
is, Edith Nesbit, who wrote books for children 100 plus years ago. Basically like the inventor of fantasy books for children, because before that it was like, kids don't read books, kids don't need books. The books that they would need are like primers, like see Jane run, teaching you how to read. Don't have fun ever. Okay? So, so the good thing about this is that a lot, because it's been over 100 years. So one of her most popular books is called The Railway Children. That's the one that really
Oh,
like, which I actually haven't read. But that's probably her most well-known work. She did branch out into like some poetry, some horror stories. So I have like this book of
okay.
horror by her, but her main thing was children's fantasy. And if you have the app called Calm, which will read you nighttime stories. My favorite, what got me into her book is called The Dragon Tamers. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, it's great. Basically, in The Dragon Tamers, which you can probably read online because it's in public domain, or if you have the Calm app, you can have it read to you. Basically, it's like, fantasy castle, there's a dragon, and then dragons are turned into cats. And I wanna read
What?
part of it for you because it's great. But first I'll show you some other books that I have. So there are some books, like, you can buy of hers, but they're not, like, it's in public domain, so it's just like, so
Mm,
this is The Book of Dragons,
book.
which is a collected book of short stories for children, but that adults can enjoy as well. Books about dragons. This book is called The Enchanted Castle.
Okay.
I haven't read it yet, but it's very like, oh, wake a princess from an enchanted sleep in an enchanted garden. Who knows?
Ooh.
I don't know what this is called because the sticker is right on the front. The House of Arden. So I have some books by her, but they're children's books. I would put them on the level somewhere in between Gail Carson Levine and Tamara Pierce, but with like a 100+ year disclaimer about like gender roles and society. Okay, so here's my favorite part of the Dragon Tamers, where two kids figure out how to tame a dragon and they save the town and, win the day. So, yeah, dragons turn into a very extra-sized cat and and he was the beginning of all cats. Nothing of the dragon remained except the claws. And this is the best. And I hope you now see how important it is to feed your cat with bread and milk. If you were to let it have nothing to eat but mice and birds, it might grow larger and fiercer and scalier and tailier and get wings and then turn into the beginning of dragons. And then there would be all the bother all over again. And that's how the book ends.
Oh my goodness. I love so you have a cat, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. After this, did you, like, think, like, "Oh, you could be a dragon if I didn't
Yeah,
feed you bread?" Okay.
yeah. Cause like, in the book, the dragon, like, goes to a blacksmith and is like, "Can you fix some of like, scales on my wings?" And the blacksmith is like, "Ah, dragon." He's like, "Fix the scales on my wings, and then I'll go eat up the town." And basically they trick him into, like, not doing that. So his scales and stuff are, like, all fall off, and he becomes an extra-sized cat, and I'm like, "Briscoe," that's my cat's name, "looking at you, cause I can
Okay.
totally see it." He's got the claws and the attitude,
Mhm.
so I better be
Oh,
careful. I don't want him to get scalier and tailier. I
mm,
just love, like, bonus points for using tailier, like,
yeah.
more
Oh my god.
tail.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
such a like, a fantasy novel, like, word.
Yeah, it is. It's very, like,
Like, I
whimsical
really
and fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you read
Yeah.
that so well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
They read it well on the app too. It's, like, very soothing, and I'm, like, practicing in my head. I'm like, "I'm reading it just, like, with the same intonation as them, but that's good because they
Yeah.
did a good job." So if you wanna get into, like, kind of like ye old fantasy tales, the beginning of fantasy for children, look into and she was just Edith Nesbit was just a really interesting person, like a feminist, like, cut her hair short, like, I don't some interesting kind of relationship things. I don't really know because 'cause I'm not all the way done with my autobiography of her, but that's what she looked like.
Oh, I like her hair.
Mhm. Classy.
Yeah, very
So, yeah.
classy.
Edith Nesbit, the mother of fantasy for children.
That's super cool. I love that. I'm gonna also add these books too. I just sometimes it's nice to, like, read children's novels just because they're, like, easier
Sometimes you need a
to, like, get
break.
into.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah, and
soothing, like a
it
literature palate cleanser that you can
it
still enjoy,
it
you know?
is,
A
it
nice
is,
sorbetto.
it is. Yes, and it's kind of nice to read a book kind of, like, through the eyes of a child, and
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
guess
think that's
that element of, like, extra wonder.
that
It's like,
definitely,
"Oh,
I think
no."
is true.
Okay,
Yeah, so do
my
you have one
last
more to
I
share?
do, I have one more. Um, her name is V.E. Schwab. I think it's Victoria something. Sorry, I can't
Ugh,
remember. But she goes by
just kidding.
V.E. Um, and the book by her that I absolutely loved was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Okay.
It
I've read
is
I'm 71% done reading that, and I I have things to
okay.
say about it, but they're probably not
Okay.
things you wanna hear.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay. Um, but that was the book that I just, like, discovered when I was in a bookstore because I was like, "Oh, this cover is so pretty. Stars. Yes, tell me more." And, I was like, "Tell me, like, how what does it mean to have, like, an invisible life?" And
Mhm.
it's very interesting because it's kind of like historical fiction-ish because the whole synopsis is that this woman, Addie LaRue, makes this deal with death that she will live forever, but the catch
But
is yeah, the catch. But wait, there's more. There's a catch. Yeah. um, she has then been cursed to where nobody remembers her when after they interact with her. So she lives forever, but and she like influences historical events, but had doesn't really like physically leave her mark on the world because nobody remembers her except
which is
one
really
day.
sad,
It is. It's so
right? She's just
lonely
very
too.
lonely.
Yeah, and except one day, somebody remembers her, and she's like,
What?
"What? How? Tell me more." And then there's, like, the whole love story and stuff, and, like, that intrigues you a little bit more. There's another love triangle in this, I just realized. Um, but it's just, like, so intriguing, um it's kind of sad in that it's very lonely, but it's, like,
Mhm.
she's so strong, of a character and, like, how she gets through this whole situation, like, alone and kind of has to be resourceful.
Mhm.
Um,
Like, how do you figure out how to do that if you can't,
yeah,
like, even, like, rent a place to live or
yeah, um, um, she has or V.E. Schwab has a new book coming out or that just came out called Gallant. I can't remember what it's about right now, but I'm also because I liked The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue so much. Um, definitely gonna check it out. And I had a book swap with um, some friends, and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was the one that I decided to gift, just because it was such
Oh,
an interesting story, and I just like the name Addie LaRue. It just has such
it
a
is very
I
fun
don't know, a very whimsical sort of musical almost
feel.
quality,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it
to it,
does.
but that
It's
was my
true.
last author. And then I know, Emerald,
Alright.
you asked the socials.
I did, yeah, so I have a
Yeah.
list too that in chat you can chime in on everybody's favorite, be woman, authors, and we got some repeats of people we've said, and we got some new ones, and oh, and what I wanted to say about, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is that the concept is so interesting to me, like, I love it keeps bringing me back, but the pace of the book is like, I'm like, "Ugh, it's so slow." To
It
me,
it is a little slow. Yes, I do agree with you there. I'm like, "Just tell me how this is
Right.
happening.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
feel like that goes along, like, thematically, it makes sense, but I'm just like, ugh, I feel like the library's probably mad at me because I keep checking it out and then, like, not touching it for 2 weeks and then just returning it. It's just like in a cycle. So
Yeah.
that's how I know exactly what percentage I'm done with. I've been at, like, 71% for, like, the last 6 months, but I've checked it out for the library at least 3 times in that time, and I'm just like, ugh. So, yeah. Anyway,
But
not to,
the ending is very good, I promise.
okay, okay, I'll try to keep going then.
Yeah,
So
finish
we
the remaining 29%. I had to
it
think
was like
about that math.
math. No, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, Naomi Novik, who we're talking about in chat also, was
Ooh.
mentioned, like, at least twice. Sarah Maas was mentioned, Juliet Dark. Tamora Pierce was mentioned multiple times on both Facebook and Instagram. Rebecca Roan Horse, N.K. Jemison, Nanetti Okafor, Robin Hobb, Jane Yolen, Cindy Pawn, Anne McCafferty, Rachel Aaron, Tanya Huff, Diana Wynne Jones, Patricia Reed. Oh, that's who wrote House Moving Castle, right? No.
Oh, no, it's Diana Wynne Jones.
Diana Wynne Jones and Patricia C. Reed. I get them confused because I don't know, they're like fit together in a similar like age genre idea for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I
Yeah,
get
and
it.
did I say Tomi Adeyemi? That was, like, the last one on the list. Oh, no, because okay, my list has Diana Wynne Jones, Tomi Adeyemi, and then Patricia C. Reed. So, yeah, there we go. Those
Yeah.
are the people that, so if any of those are people you like, give them a little holla, like, I'm, like, +1 to Naomi Novik, Tamora Pierce, Jane Yolen, Robin Hobb, I didn't know was a woman. But I have read Robin Hobb and, enjoyed them. Anne McCafferty, classic, like, classic sci-fi. Ooh, and I'll add on there too, in my honorable mentions pile is, Mercedes Lackey. If you like the
Oh,
retold fairy tale, she's got a whole
yeah.
series of them, very light and kind of, like, not for seriousness, a good beach read. And Monica Furlong, also a YA author, some delightful, like, witchy vibe, uh,
Ooh.
YA. So those are my 2 ads. And Cassandra Clare, who I'm reading. That's the very pretty book
Oh,
that I got right now. You'll
yeah.
you'll love them.
Yeah,
Love
I'm
triangles,
trying to
right?
remember. I have heard her name before, and I'm trying to remember. She has like another series, right? Do you remember what it's
Yeah, so there's
called?
her, like, main series, I think, is the one that's modern. It's the Mortal
Oh,
Instruments.
no, yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes.
And I
Okay.
tried and I'm more into the, like, historical fantasy, so her
Mhm.
other series are, like, The Infernal Devices, and that's more like Victorian times. So I read that series first, which is very Janae vibes. It's like love triangle, like, ooh, but
Ooh,
she somehow ends up with both of them. How? I guess you'll have to read them.
okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that one called again? I'm writing this
The
down.
first
I
one's
am
called The
definitely adding it.
Clockwork Prince.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this series I'm, like, obsessed with right now, which is, like, the follow-up series, so it's, like, Edwardian times, and the 3rd one isn't out yet, and I'm so mad
No.
about it.
Wow. Does it have a published date at least?
It does, yes,
Okay,
November,
okay,
so you have
okay, okay.
time.
So, okay, but
Yeah,
you know it's coming,
but
so
it's
you're not
very
totally yeah,
similar, like, love triangle, magic world, like,
okay.
women warriors fighting demons vibes, and I love them, but I tried to read the ones that are set in modern times, and I'm like, "I hate this." The worst. So, I don't know what to do about that,
Yeah,
but
and
yeah, very
historical
YA
fantasy.
romance, like hitting all those tropes, like, "Oh my god, fake engagement," like,
Oh my gosh.
perfect.
Oh my gosh, okay. I'm definitely going to read these books.
Check 'em out. But if you're
Yeah.
into, like, a more modern fantasy, try the Mortal Instruments, maybe those are for you. I don't know.
I feel like it was a movie too.
Yeah, and there's definitely a TV show called Shadowhunters. that's based on
Oh.
and I tried to watch some of that too, and I tried really hard to get into it, and I was like, "I can't. I just can't." So, Clockwork is a great series, yes, I agree, like, so much. The Ascendancy of a Bookworm. You had me at Bookworm, judging a book by its title
Mm.
by Mia Kazuki. A story of a would-be librarian book love, the end of the world without a book, and her adventure to make the first book.
Oh.
Added to the list.
Yeah.
Robin
I mean,
McKinley, added to the list. +1 to Robin Hobb. Jordan Ifuiko, sorry if I'm butchering that. Ray Breaker. The Villains series, because the main character deals with chronic pain. Relatable. Yeah, okay. That's what's going on in chat. I feel
yeah.
like so much of having a satisfying reading life is knowing what you like and what you just don't resonate with. That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes. And I used to be one I used to be one of those people who, like, I had to finish a book, like, regardless
Mhm.
of if I liked it or not. I was just like, "No, I don't like it, but I need to know what happens, so I'm just gonna, like,
Yes.
power through it," and it's just like,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna kinda, like, skim through the end, but then I was like, "You know what?
Ain't nobody got
There's so
time for
many."
that.
Yeah, I was like, My to be read list is very,
Yeah.
very long. I have a lot of
Yeah.
books on hold at the library. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna I am going to move on with books that maybe I will resonate with
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, so if you try the Clockwork oh, no, sorry, the first book's called The Clockwork Angel, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, here I'm not gonna
Ah,
start you book 2 with
oh my
Clockwork
goodness.
Angel, Clockwork Prince, Clockwork Princess. Very
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying, because if I
I
started
was
with The
like, "Ooh, I
Clockwork Prince, I'd be like, "Wow,
better
Emerald,
address
this is
that because,
terrible."
yeah."
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
very
the
upset.
love
You said you
triangle
would
in
know.
that is so like, I'm, like, crying, like, I'm like, "This YA romance is killing me." That's my, like, current genre that I'm on is, like, I'm gonna read all of the YA, you know? So
Yeah, okay. Well, are there any other books or female, authors that you've heard of that, like, weren't on this list that you were, interested in that's on your to be read list?
Mm. Um, here comes my dragon. I'm like, "I don't know what to do, you're
Okay,
gonna knock over
yeah.
something." There's not quite enough room. Say hi.
Yeah.
Say hi.
Special appearance.
Featuring Briscoe, AKA a dragon if he gets any scalier and tailier. Am I right, bro? Okay, get off.
Bye,
Are
Briscoe.
he says, "I'm so mad right now."
Oh,
In dragon.
yes.
'Cause I picked him up and he doesn't really like that. Any
Oh.
fantasy so there's not I don't really have a fantasy author that I'm like, "Oh, I wanna read someone right now," but I do have a sci-fi author that I wanna read coming is, oh, what's her name? Uh, This is like oh, okay. I'm just in my head because I get her confused with it's Octavia Butler, not Octavia Spencer, who is an
Okay,
actress.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
okay. I was like, "Isn't
uh
that the act?" Okay,
yeah,
no, but
no,
they're the same thing.
I wanna read Octavia Butler because I listened to this podcast about her and how, like, she was, like, basically, like, the forerunner of, like, African American woman science fiction. So, like,
Ooh.
she has, like I've added her to, like, our, like, "Oh, potential book list, book
Mhm.
talk ideas," because I think it'd be really interesting. She's, like, an American science fiction writer, woman of color who, like, broke into the successful science fiction like industry as a woman of color and has like a bunch of books that just they all sound like I didn't even put a title in like the spreadsheet. I was just like just anything by her like I feel like would be super interesting. So that's my sci-fi one that I want to read. And you, my friend, do you
Oh,
have
yeah.
any
The one that I'm, like, most interested in reading right now, is the Jade City trilogy by Fonda Lee. I just,
Oh.
um one of my friends had just finished the series and recommended it. I discovered that this author is also from the Pacific Northwest. So I'm like, oh, local. I'm intrigued.
Yes.
And like I think it's like kind of Game of Thrones y, but then also and like about like interwoven like family dynamics in politics, but then there's magic and I'm like, just tell me more. And there's like swords and stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm sold. So
I
that is
love it.
also on my list.
Nice. I've had a this is kind of related to that and Clockworks, which is just in my head, is that I've had a book from a local author. I don't remember, I think I got it at some library event, and it's called, like, The Girl and Her Clockwork Cat by a
Cat
and I'm
cat?
like, "Cat, meow."
Oh, okay. Yeah. Dragon. Okay.
Yeah, dragon,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I haven't read it, so maybe this'll hold me accountable as I told the stream about it, so now I have to actually read it, and so I don't know the author's name, I just know it's called The Girl and the Clockwork Cat, and it's been on my TBR shelf for, like, a couple years. I'm
There's
so
just so
sorry.
many books to read, and I'm
I
adding
know,
so many more to
I
today.
know. I'm like, "I'll look at this list later when I'm not
Yeah.
overwhelmed."
Yeah.
But there
So
are so
many books.
many great fantasy authors out there, I feel like if I'm not, like, personally seeking them out and being exposed to them, like, I still want to be, like, I want to expand, like, because you never know when the next author is gonna be, like, that one that you read, like, every year, or the one that, helps you, like, re-understand, like, your own who you are as a person or, like, gives you a perspective on something in your life. Is
Mm.
it gonna be the book that you go out and search for beautiful covers of because you need to
Mhm.
have every beautiful cover of the book? You don't know. It could be the next book you pick up. So,
It's a treasure hunt.
it's a treasure hunt.
It's a
It's true.
yeah, a quest,
The
like you said
best
earlier.
kind of treasure book quest.
Yes. Yay. Okay. Well, I think that kind of like wraps up our stream for tonight. Thank
Mhm.
you, Emerald, for sharing excuse me, your favorite, so, your favorite women fantasy authors. There's so many more books to read, but I'm very excited. Um, let's see. Upcoming on Thursday at 7 p.m., we are doing a Let's Play Witchwood with Jen, J Fun, Prime, and Emerald is also going to be there. You're going to be seeing a lot of Emeralds this month in our month of
Yeah.
fantasy. Woo, 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 woo. Very exciting. And again, happy International Women's Day. I
Mhm.
think we are going to go ahead and raid Kalena. She is also doing an International Women's Day stream. So go ahead and show her some Geek Girl Con love.
GeekGirlCon love, and thanks all for
Yay!
joining and sharing your authors and book recs, and I'm excited to look at some of that.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, and thanks, Janae, for being an excellent hostess.
Oh, thanks, Emerald, for being an
You're doing
excellent
great,
conversation.
sweetie.
Oh, yeah,
Callbacks for you,
yeah.
Taryn.
Thanks, everyone.